Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pretty Well Read. I'm your host, Mariah, and today we have a wonderful guest, a personal friend of mine, a business owner that I admire, that everybody should go shop at, but we'll get into it briefly here. Everybody, please welcome Logan from the Book Archive. Yay!
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being on. I kind of want to invest in like a stream deck so I can get applause noises for people.
Yes. I support that. I'll give you money for it. It's fine. I'll be
But
your
so
first sponsor.
we'll get into business side of things, but to backtrack a little, how did we meet, Logan? The standard question I always ask.
We met ages ago. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know how long ago we met. Like 6, 7, years ago maybe. We worked for Indigo at the same time. You were a GM at
Mm-hmm.
one store and I was a manager at one store.
Mm-hmm.
We never worked to like that closely together.
No.
Like we just kind of like just like knew of each other in different spaces and like
Mm-hmm.
met during those times. I remember you came to one of our staff parties.
Oh yeah, I
Do you remember that?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about at first I came to help out with one of your auditions. It's like a group interview with Indigo, and I came to like help you run the audition.
Oh, who knew?
She's gone. And
She's
then
gone. All I remember is karaoke.
work. Yeah, yeah. And then during the pandemic, managers of all kinds were kind of helping out at each other's stores. And so remember me, you and Mark like had to figure out in-store like curbside pickup for when?
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. Oh, the dark ages. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Truly.
Crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Truly crazy. Crazy times.
Yeah.
But
I
yes, that's how we met. We met through we worked for the same company.
Yes, exactly. And I'd just like to put that out there that, we don't stand Indigo as we
No,
used
we
to.
do not stand Indigo.
No, not at all. But it's just like anytime we reference J.K.
Disclaimer, they
Rowling or
suck.
Harry. Yeah. Anytime
Yeah.
we reference, yeah, J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, I'm like, by the way, we don't love turfs in this house. But yeah, had to get that out of the way. Um, but yeah, that was a
That's so
good time.
funny.
So I know that you've been a reader for forever, Logan, but I don't really know about how it started. What got you into reading? Were you always a reader?
Mm, I would say I was always an on and off reader. I feel like typical kids, like our parents read to us growing up.
Hmm.
But I probably like fell in love with reading around like 6 to 8, like age 6 to 8. I loved like the Magic Treehouse series
Hmm.
by like Mary Osborne. I was a Mary Osborne stan. I had all the books. I remember like I don't even know like this is like super surprising. I just had this memory yesterday that like I had like some sort of like subscription for that like series where like I was given like a book maybe once a month, once a quarter. I don't really know.
Yeah,
This books just randomly showed up
yeah,
at the door.
fancy.
And I grew up in like a rural community, so like there was no like drop off, so it just
Hmm.
showed up, which was super cool. And then like I read like a lot of like mystery and detective books and like Goosebumps, like the
Hmm.
classics.
Hmm.
Um, and then I feel like between like ages like 9 to like 18, you just kind of fell off reading, right? You're trying to fit in. Reading wasn't exactly cool, especially
Hmm.
like in a small community, right? Access to
True.
books was not existent, right?
Hmm.
At the time, there was like no Amazon, there
Yep.
was no bookstore in my town, right? So I kind of fell out of it. And then as an adult, I started reading more again. Mostly nonfiction and memoirs, nothing like life changing or life enriching. It was really just like, Tyler Oakley, Mindy Kaling, just
Work,
like
binge.
YouTubers and like their memoirs and stuff, like just like filler, probably didn't age well,
Hmm.
realistically.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. And then now obviously I'm pretty much I read every day almost. So
Yeah. Nice.
yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm surprised to hear that you had such a break in reading. Like I was like, oh, Logan's gonna be one of those people that didn't have a break in reading. But I understand, that different kind of phase and nobody really does it and there's nobody reading around you. You don't have that representation. You don't gravitate toward it anymore. The YouTuber
hmm
bugs coming back. Thank you so much at Tyler Oakley for saving literacy.
Literally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like growing up, there was no like we were like a TV family, right? So like the TV
Yep.
was always on. We ate with the TV on.
Yep.
There was no like my parents weren't readers. My brother wasn't a reader.
Oh,
So
interesting.
like yeah, like you said, like there was no reading like
Mhm.
happening in my life aside from like
Right.
that really short age of like them reading to me.
Mhm.
Um, and then growing up in like a rural community, like there was a library in our school, obviously, like
Yeah.
who went to the library? There was like no like
Mhm.
library time, right?
Yeah.
So just access was an issue
Yeah,
for sure.
interesting. And so when you kinda got back into it, you just wanted some, like, nonfic tea, which I totally understand, and but when you did get back into it, were you like, "Holy shit, I forgot I love this?" Like, did you have, like, a, "Oh, yeah," moment with
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, literally. It was like that moment of like, oh yeah, I remember like I actually really enjoyed to read. Like I liked spending my time reading a book.
Yeah.
Um and it was really interesting because like I was from like after like YouTubers and like Tyler Oakley was done. I really read a lot of contemporary and literary fiction, which is like such a weird like jump into like literature because
Yeah.
like literary fiction, as we know, is like super hard to process and like um,
Mhm.
like we'll talk about it later with this book, but like and I wasn't really like a romance reader or a fantasy reader. It was literally just literary fiction. If it was gay and sad, I was all about it. Um, so it's kind of an interesting way to jump in back into reading.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking like, "Ooh, is he reading, like, Sally Rooney?" But you're reading, like, Call Me by Your Name, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading Call Me by Your Name. Anything that was actually like gay and sad, I was all about it.
Yeah.
I've read Sally Rooney. I don't this hot take. I don't really get it. Like,
Eee, that is a hot take.
like what was the normal people? That is a
Yeah.
hot take, I know. Normal people was like so boring for me.
Oh,
And then
shit,
like
get her.
Intermezzo, Intermezzo
Yeah.
was fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like could have been shorter. Could have been. Should have been.
That's so funny. Have you read, any Rainbow Rowell books? I read Carry On,
Never
which is essentially
no.
gay Harry Potter. It's, like,
Yeah.
wild how close it is to gay Harry Potter, and, if you wanna read something Harry Potter-esque not written by a TERF, huge rec. That's such a good book. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so many things about it. But no, I haven't read anything by Rainbow Rowell. They're coming out with a new book,
Oh, really? Tea.
Cherry Baby. I think it's called Cherry Baby, Cherry something.
So you're into the queer, literary fic. Is there, like, anything el like, are there genres that you have been meaning to get into but haven't ventured yet? Or you're like, "I'm happy in my queer lit fic lane."
Mm, no, actually, before the book archive, I
Mhm.
was like literary fic till I die.
Yeah.
But with doing TBA, I've been really intentional about reading outside of literary fiction.
Oh, good.
So I read almost every genre. Horror is
Mhm.
probably like the only genre like I haven't really
Mhm.
gotten into. Like I read a couple, but like or sci-fi. I lied. I'm not a sci-fi girl. I'm not. I'm so sorry to the sci-fi people. I just
Yeah.
can't get into it. It's just like too much.
Yeah.
Hot take. But like it's
Yeah.
just like I and I fuck with aliens. Love
Mhm.
them. Can't wait
Sure.
for them to like take over the world.
Yeah.
But like just like science in general just never clicked in my
No.
brain.
No, I, like, appreciate it, in terms of, like, I love the effort you put into this, girl, but but I, like,
Hmm.
don't care about the journey, but I, like, respect you for your craft. It's like how I feel about beer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't drink beer, and I can't fuck with beer, but I'm like, as an art of brewing, I'm like, "Good for y'all."
Yeah. You are doing something that a lot of people can't do.
Yeah.
And that's something to be super proud of. I can't get into it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I've also been trying to read a little more widely as well. So, horror, you haven't gotten into it yet? Have you tried it, but a few books were a miss, or what did that look like?
No, I just like something I just like don't gravitate towards, like
Sure.
just typically, which is surprising because I do like horror like films.
Mhm.
I think like the last horror I read was maybe like Tender is the Flesh
Okay.
by Augustine Bestisteria,
Mhm.
which was like insane. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've read it.
No.
No, it's wild. It's such a
Ooh.
wild book. It was like super popular on TikTok a couple years ago.
Okay.
rightfully so. I
Yeah.
find that like a lot of like she's an Argentinian author. I find like a lot of Argentinian authors are so good at horror.
Mhm.
Um, just a sidebar, but I just haven't really like I don't know found the one to like really pull me
Mhm.
into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair. I find there are a few authors who like their writing is so fast paced because when I read horror, I don't want it to meander. I'm like, I want like if you're gonna thrill me, let's get to it. I don't want the plot to be too. Grady Hendrix books I really like, which is feels kind of basic of me, but he wrote My Best Friend's Exorcism, which was great, and then The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It's so a lot of his horror
right.
books are like campy 80s hairspray, big hair, scream queens ish. Like I enjoy like the camp in that way of his books, and they're pretty like fast paced.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a horror has to be fast paced. Like I just like you said, like it can't like just like there should be like no plot. There should just be
yeah.
murder and death and like whatever horror is, you know?
Yeah, not to be a gamer,
I
but it should
agree.
be pretty, like, RNG. It should be pretty, like, first person shooter. It should be pretty, like, quick
Literally. Yeah.
into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so funny. What would be an example I've asked this to a few people now, but what would be an example of a five-star read to you? Or do you even rate your books?
I do. I do.
Mm,
I'm pretty um five-star reads. They're pretty easy to find for me. I don't
yeah.
like I feel like I don't read like books I know I'm not gonna like.
Yeah,
Like
me
I
too.
read pretty diversely, but I know what I like. So like
Mhm,
it's always a four or a five.
mhm.
Five-star reads. Oh my God, there's like so many. I feel like I had a really good 5 year read last year. Like Martyr by Kaveh Ekbar was amazing. A
I would have
super
given it
great
a
book.
6. It's so good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Last year, The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong was a 6 star for me. I devoured it. It was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. Oh, I'm glad you read it. Good.
Um, yeah. Um, A Little Life, hot take, but 5 star by Hanya Yanagihari.
Yeah,
You know, people hate it, people love it. I
yeah.
loved it.
That's so good to hear,
Uh,
specifically on that
yeah.
one, like, I have to tangent on that one. The, like, controversy around that book and it being, like, too trauma porn-y, I can't stand that opinion. I'm like, like, what a disservice that is to people who actually kind of have things like that happen to them. I'm like, how dare you like cheapen their lives and experiences into trauma porn? Sometimes these things just like
Hmm.
happen to people. It's like I just think that opinion is overblown to me.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think people just really run with like wherever trauma porn came from. Like whoever made that first review, I think people just have run with it without actually reading
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
You know, you can read it and you can hate everything about the book, but you have to like understand like this shit can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's happened to this one character, and we're just reading it, right? We're reading the
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
It's such a good book
Yeah.
if you can handle like having your heart broken constantly.
For 800 pages. Yes, exactly. Like still read the
Yeah, for
trigger
800
warnings
pages,
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. But
Um,
if 800 pages is too much, they have the box set, which is broken into 4 volumes.
do they? What?
They do. It's new last year in November. So you can read it by volume, so it's
Yeah.
easier to digest. So,
Ooh, okay, I didn't know that. That's probably selling like crazy for a lot of people who have, like, big book fear.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. And, I think I already know the answer to this because I'm the same way, but how often would you say that you DNF books?
Ooh, like never. Mm,
Yeah,
I
same.
think probably in the last like 6 years, I've DNF'd maybe 4 to 5 books,
Mhm.
possibly.
Yeah.
I find that I don't DNF. I'll just either sometimes I'll put them back on the shelf, but I'll go back to them. They're like a not
Yeah.
right now, but maybe later.
Mhm.
Um, there are sometimes that I just can't get into it, but it's
Mhm.
not very often. I really will force myself to power through because you never know the ending might save it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if it's that bad all the way through, then that's also a good story.
Yeah, exactly, right? You can bitch about it and complain about it later, right?
Yeah, you've earned it.
But like I said earlier, yeah, exactly. I've earned it. I read these 300, 400 pages. I earned a bitch about it later. Um, but like I said earlier, like I know what I like.
Mhm.
So like it's not very often that I pick a book that I'm not going to enjoy. Like I don't really know how it's super possible for a lot of people
Yeah.
to like always do enough books. Like, do you not know what you like?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, I've had one friend on the pod who DNFs left, right, and center, and I think that they also read very widely and read a ton, but I think they just, like, are such a mood reader that they're like, "This doesn't suit it perfectly," and so
Mm,
they'll just like, that's my, like, theory behind it as well, like, she didn't explicitly say that, but I'm like, "It must be because you read so much." But yeah,
yeah,
that's fair. I'm with you.
that's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about reading diversely and why it's so important, and I also wanna talk about the business, but those 2 things go so hand in hand, Logan. Tell me about the
They
book
do.
archive and, how it started, how it came to be.
Yeah, okay. So the Book Archive is my business. It's an online and pop-up indie bookstore based in Edmonton, but shipping across Canada. With like two main pillars, one being affordability and like accessibility. So like we have, used books, bargain books, new books, etc., at different price points. And that really goes back to like what I said earlier. I grew up in a rural community, so like books weren't accessible. So I try to make them as accessible as possible, especially to rural people. Um, and then the second part is that we champion diverse voices and stories. So most of our inventory is, queer authors, Black authors, brown authors, Indigenous authors, disabled authors, etc. And that's really because representation is so important in media, in books, in literacy. Um, and it just, the reason why it's so important, it just really opens the door, right? It
Mhm,
opens the door not for just for authors, right, who are, living these experiences and writing these experiences down for us,
mhm,
but it also opens the door into for us into their lives, their histories, and it helps us like really see the world in a different light.
mhm.
um, if you think right now, like in the world, it's pretty white, it's white dominated, as it's been for like literally forever, and
Yep.
that's the problem,
Mhm,
right? That's the problem that we're seeing, and there is obviously a literacy crisis in Canada, in the US, in the world probably. And I
mhm,
think having more access to these books that are written by authors who don't look like you and I,
mhm.
who don't have the same experiences as you and I, is so, so important.
Yeah, I love that, and that's so fair. I think too, accessibility in terms of like proximity and location has gotten a little better, like with so many online ordering options. But supporting local and like and buying at a reasonable price is just like a cross section that's hard to come by now. Like I feel like a lot of readers love to
Hmm.
support local, but when the blocker to their next read or getting into reading is the book is 37.99, but you have pre-loved books on for 9.99. That could be the difference between falling in love with a new hobby or not. So it's like, thank you for your
Hmm.
service.
Welcome. Anytime. But yeah, I
I
agree. And like access to books is easier now with like Amazon with one day shipping and stuff like that. But you're right, supporting
Yes.
local businesses, both book and otherwise,
Mhm,
that money gets circulated back into the economy.
mhm.
Um, and it helps get more access to more things that aren't just book related, right? Versus just lining the pockets of billionaires and millionaires.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's also such an important note.
Yeah. So after Indigo, like, were you sitting on this idea for a long time, or was it like a specific event where you were like, you know what, I don't see this in the market, so I'm gonna be that spot in the market, or what did that look like?
No, I think it was like always just a dream in the background, like always like like when you're a child, you're like, I'm gonna be a chef and have a restaurant. Because like I love to eat food and I love those sort of things.
Mhm.
You had maybe had like a little kitchen set growing up, like little Tykes thing. I did.
Yeah, easy bake
Um,
oven.
but I think for like, yeah, exactly, right? But for books, I always like wanted to work with books and be
Mm,
around books. That's obviously why I worked at Indigo at the time.
mhm,
And when I left Indigo, there was like that huge gap in my life to not
mhm,
have such access to books anymore, and not be able to like be around books and talk about books and, things like that. So that's really what made me take the jump. There's a lot of bookstores in Edmonton right now,
mhm.
right? And the scene in Edmonton's growing. That's why I wanted to do something like online and pop up so I can have access to all of Canada versus just a niche sort of market.
Right.
That's how kind of like the book archive started.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and you don't have to think about, like, the overhead of a brick and mortar store, which is such a W.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. For
yeah.
now. In the future, that obviously the goal is to have a brick and mortar.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, being able to access so many different people, and I've met and like talked to so many people because of the book archive,
mhm.
which has been just like a super great like blessing almost,
Yeah.
which has been yeah super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That leads me to another question. I often ask about like engaging with bookish communities and whether people use like YouTube or TikTok or Reels or whatever that looks like. But like, how has engaging with the book community like shaped your business, or like how, or even you as a reader?
I think me as a reader, for sure, there's a lot more access to see who is a good person versus who's not a good person.
Yeah.
Right? I think I don't know who to use an example. Let's use Sarah J. Maas because she's trending right now for
Hmm.
her, books coming out, books 6 and 7. She's an awful person, and that's just
Yep.
a fact, right?
Yep.
But I think, and she uses, she's a Zionist and she uses Breonna Taylor's murder as, hey, by the way, that sucked, but here's my book cover,
Yeah. Off. And that
That's
post
an
is
awful
still up.
thing to do.
Yeah.
And that post is still up, and she's had the chance to right her wrongs in whatever way that's possible, but she hasn't.
Hmm.
Um, but I think being a reader now in this year and having access to so much social media, you have access to like that information.
Hmm.
Whereas like, a long time ago, a couple years ago, that wouldn't we wouldn't have had access to that, and we
True.
would be supporting that, you know? So I
Yeah.
think that's really what shaped me as a reader and like has shaped readers in this like online space
Hmm.
is you're able to like see the bad in people a bit easier than you were before, which is like
Yeah.
maybe cynical or something, but um, I don't want to support people who, you know, go against my values,
Yeah, no, I think it's
right?
important to be informed and engaged with the media you consume and support and encourage. And yeah, having kind of like the blanket pulled out from over our eyes is huge. But from a business standpoint, have you connected with like people you've never thought you'd connect with, or like your audience reaching so wide? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I think I've reached out or not reached out, but like I've connected more with authors that I would have never heard of before who have like
Cool.
been super supportive with the book archive.
Aw.
There's one author that comes to mind. It's her name is KJ Aiello. She wrote a memoir about mental health and like her experience with mental health. It's a super great book. It's called The Monster in the Mirror.
Mhm.
Everyone should read it. You learn so much. But beyond that, like we've become like acquaintances, close friends. Um, and I would have never have had that experience or like that person to like talk to if I need to
Yeah.
without having TBA, which is super cool.
Aw, that is so sweet. That's amazing. The power of the internet. Yeah, because you weren't like in our indigo days, you weren't like a posting everyday girly. But has that been like a big
No.
adjustment for you having to be on the social media grind? I already hate it.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a lot because also you feel like you have to be on all the time, especially like being
Yeah.
an online business, you have to be like
Hmm.
on all the time versus like maybe a brick and mortar doesn't need to be like an owner of a brick and mortar doesn't need to be.
Hmm.
But I am always constantly having to grind and think of new ways to engage
Hmm.
with people, with posts, jump on trends, those sort of things, while also being authentic to who I am, who TBA is. So the grind is tough sometimes, but it's
Hmm.
worth it in the end. Like it will be and is. But
Hmm.
the grind is, sometimes it grinds a little too hard. I need to take a break. Sometimes you can see there's a gap in social media.
Hmm.
I'm also a full-time student, so like it's just like just
Yeah.
sometimes it's too much, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I forgot you were a student. What are you taking?
Marketing, which like
Oh,
just goes right into it. Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's very fitting. Good for you. That's
Yeah.
fun. I hated
Yeah.
academia,
Thank
but
you. I can't wait
yeah.
for it. Yeah, I can't wait for it to be done. One more year. Thank God.
Yay! Yeah, yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, fair enough. I also just wanted to circle back. I feel like I moved on from it too quickly about the note about like Sarah J. Mass and reading with people who align with your values. I don't think I've talked about it yet on the podcast, but there are people who kind of draw that line in the sand, and there are people who kind of go just like books are books. I don't think about the author, which I think is like such a ignorant, privileged, musty take. But and I think that's why, like, reading diversely is so important too because, like, these Zionists, these awful people, these predators, these sex offenders, these TERFs are still pushed to the forefront of the market because of, like, their privilege and their whiteness. Um,
Hmm.
do you have, like, not hard and fast rules, but are there certain authors you won't, like, shelve, or do you have, like, policies, uh the book archive wise?
I would say there's no like written policy. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like we only carry XYZ because of XYZ value.
Yeah.
Um, we like obviously won't, JK Rowling does not get a platform with us. We've been pretty firm on that forever.
Great.
Um,
Yeah.
I think if people go against our values, like my own personal values of being just a POS, then you're
Mhm.
not gonna get shelved. Like I have all the
Yeah.
control. And there's times when I've carried books, like most recent was like KM Moranova. I don't know if you've heard about them and like their
No.
recent stuff. They wrote like dark romance, military romance. But recently, like a couple months ago, they on threads called out an author, a black authors
Uh-huh.
especially, and like it just like was out of left field. It made no sense, and like they really like shone light into who their character is. We pulled their books
Ooh.
immediately because like
Oh,
there's
good.
no time for that.
Yeah.
There's no time for that shit. Especially like don't come for like an already marginalized author. Like don't
Mhm.
bother.
Yeah.
And like the impact for us to not carry them is like super small. Like we're not
Yeah.
making, millions. But I
Mhm.
think they're like, don't be a piece of shit and
Yeah.
we'll carry your book. Right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I could understand, like, well, not understand, but I could see, like, bookstores, large or small, being like, "Well, we're a business. We need to make money. We'll put J.K. Rowling at the front of the store because we need to make a buck." But I think, like, creating a safe space and being staunch about those values and who you shelve is gonna keep loyalty longer because people can trust your business and trust that it'll align with what's important to them, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there's like I I I get the idea of like I'm a small business, so
Mhm.
I need to have like people like J.K. Rowling and Sarah J. Maas to like make money. And I get that.
Mhm.
Like I
Mhm.
get it in a sense, like a business sense, I understand.
Yeah.
But you're right, it doesn't really create a safe space for people. And there's like another author would be like TJ Klune, who used the
Mhm.
60 Scoop to, inspire one of his books. And that's just
Mhm.
like not cool, just in general. So like
Mhm.
why would I platform an author that goes so against what I believe in? Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It just like I can't wrap my head around it, especially as a small business owner. And then there's bookstores in the city who do that. And I just don't get how you can create a safe space and say you do create a safe space
Yeah.
when you do platform those authors so loudly,
Yeah. It's giving,
you know?
I love everyone and I'm apolitical. It's giving that in the worst way.
Yeah, and like this is not the time. This is
No.
not the time to be like that.
No. No, exactly. On a lighter note, what has been some of the, best moments of owning a bookstore? Any, like, W
I think
milestones? Is it the pop-ups?
it's the pop-ups are pretty cool. The pop-ups are a lot of work, turns out.
Yeah, fair.
But having like the reoccurring people come to the pop-ups and be like, "Oh, I bought XYZ book from you like months ago. I loved it. I'm here again for another recommendation." That like
Yeah.
is such a cool feeling of like you trusted me enough to like give you a good book and for you to spend money on that book,
Mhm.
to come back and ask for another one.
Yeah.
That's been a W moment. I think what else? I think also another cool moment has been like partnering with there's another queer owned pop up and online bookstore in the city, Alphabet Soup Books.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and the owner's super cool. But yeah, being able to partner with Caitlin, the owner of that bookstore, and we have this queer youth book program where you can donate money to us, and we use that money to give books to queer people and queer youth specifically.
Yeah.
So in the summer, we got a bunch of donations and we partnered with Firefly Institute, which is a queer camp for youth, and
Mhm.
donated a bunch of books to them, which is like super fulfilling.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I didn't know about that. That's amazing. And yeah, it's so nice
Yeah.
to see the Edmonton literary scene explode in recent years since I've left, for sure. That's amazing. Aw.
Hmm.
I'm actually
Yeah.
coming back home, side note, next week, for the first time in 2 years, and there's
Oh.
a few local bookstores that I wanna stop by, but I'm so like, get your brick and mortar shop up and running, Logan, damn.
I know, yeah. One day maybe, but there is so many cool bookstores in the city now.
Yeah.
Um, and
Do you
it's
have any
so cool to
faves?
see. Yeah.
Yeah. Any faves?
I do have some faves. I think Magpie Books is super cool. I think they carry such cool books.
Mhm.
Um, the owners are super neat as well.
Aw,
There's Paper Birch, which is in like the Little Italy sort of area. Um,
okay.
they I think still mostly used books.
Okay.
But the owners are super cool. They have a little cafe in there.
Cute.
And then Porchlight Books is new as well. They
Mhm.
opened a year ago.
Mm,
They have similar books that we do, like literary fiction,
mm,
contemporary fiction, but just like really interesting books. And I think that's super
yeah.
cool.
Oh, that's nice. I have specific,
Those are my
like,
three
plans
recs.
already in the Cal to go to Porchlight, so I'm super excited that it comes with a glowing rec.
Yep. And
Nice.
they're by Made by Marcus. You can get ice cream. They're by Colombian. You can get a coffee.
Mhm.
They're just like
Perfect.
in such a good spot.
Yeah, yeah, they are. I'm bringing my Quebecois ass boyfriend for the first time, so he's never been to Edmonton, so I'm excited to show him the art and the culture.
Yes, the arts and the culture. Yes, that's
But,
cool.
but awesome. It was so nice to learn about your reading style and habits and your love for the media and the business. But if you're new to Pretty Well Read, we deep dive into one of our guests' favorite books for sections 2 and 3. So we are talking this episode about On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, as you've seen by the title. So we're going to jump right into the no spoiler section, and then the spoiler section will be at the very end, so you can drop off or stay the whole time. But let's get into it. Cue music.
I
Awesome.
love
So
it.
yeah, thank you. It's podcast magic. But all right, thanks for sticking with us. We are into the On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong no spoiler section. I'm going to start by reading the back of the book. So if you haven't checked out On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, first of all, where have you literally been? And so yeah, we'll get into it. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Written when the speaker, Little Dog, was in his late 20s, the letter unearths a family's history that began before he was born, a history whose epicenter is rooted in Vietnam. At once a witness to the fraught yet undeniable love between a single mother and her son, it is also a brutally honest exploration of race, class, masculinity, and our current American moment. Immersed as we are in addiction, violence, and trauma, but undergirdled by compassion and tenderness. The question of how to survive and how to make it a kind of joy powers one of the most important debut novels of many years. And so true, bestie. One of the most important debut
So
novels of
true.
many years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And still, I feel
yeah, it's funny
it's
how
so good. It's so good.
yeah, it's funny how the back of the book said, like, of this American moment, and that was in 2019, and, like, how relevant is that still?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Literally. Yeah.
but I always start out by asking, like, how you heard about the book, Logan, and why'd you pick it for the podcast?
How did I hear about this book? This is before like TikTok and stuff was like really big, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't really hear about it in the traditional sense. It wasn't like trending on TikTok. It wasn't on Instagram or anything like that time. I really heard about it just because the cover was so cool. The cover just like sold it instantly to me. I was just in a bookstore. I think at work at Indigo, honestly.
Yeah.
And it probably was like an alcove at the time. And just like I just would always walk by the cover and walk by the book and I was like, this book just like looks so cool. And then reading the synopsis like you just did,
Mhm.
like it just like sells it instantly. And I think it's a really good reminder also because the book cover, if you haven't looked at it, is like so understated. But it just really sells it. And I think this is a really great reminder that covers sell books, people. So have if you're an author and you're listening to this, get a good cover.
Yeah,
It sells a book.
true. Like they say, don't judge a book by a cover, but we're gonna. Sorry.
We're gonna all the time, every day.
Yeah. Um, I also wanted to talk about, so without obviously getting into spoilers, it's a letter written from son to mother who doesn't speak English, and so it's kind of like a an ode to her, or a diary entry to her, or like a message to her that she'll never read. So it's kind of already going into it, you know, that it's just like therapeutic and cathartic for our narrator. What did you think about the like letter format and the writing style?
I think it's really interesting. I think reading it now was so much more impactful than reading it then. I think with the letter style,
Mhm,
the story, without getting into it, like it does, it's really fragmented, right? It's really
mhm,
shifts from story to story to story, with being a letter to his mother.
mhm,
And I think that's what makes the story so interesting and like so relatable almost, because it's like as you write or type, you're thinking of one thing and then you instantly think of something else. You guys start doing that. And I think that's how the story is kind of, that's why it's fragmented,
mhm,
right? He's talking about
mhm,
one thing and then it jumps to another story that he experienced. And it's just like, oh, by the way, this. So I think the letter format, it's really interesting. I don't know how it would have changed if it
mhm.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it was necessary to be written like this, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Well said. I think the kind of vignettes that Ocean kind of places in front of us are so they're not they're fragmented, but they're not that siloed. Like he'll mention like the monarchs in the first vignette, but he'll tie that back into the end of the book. So there are themes that kind of run through these vignettes to kind of tie it together. But I think if Little Dog, our
Mhm.
narrator, was writing a letter to his mother, it's not going to read like a perfect traditional plot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think also reading it now, um, without like getting too into it. So my mom actually passed away recently.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
and I've been thinking about doing something similar to this
Mm,
to like grieve. And I think we'll talk about it later maybe, but I think this is his way to grieve with his mother,
mhm,
who's still with us, but also just with the language barrier, right?
mhm,
I think it's his way to process his life.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's hard to grieve someone while they're still alive, but that doesn't mean, you know, when you have to, you have to. And I think this is a beautiful way for him to be able to do it. So, like, she can, like, know it exists, but she doesn't need to know the
Hmm.
intricacies of, you know, what was said. Or maybe she got it translated. Maybe she read it. I don't know. But
I don't think so.
no, I doubt it. I don't think so either. But, before Ocean, was a novelist, he was, like, a really successful poet. I think his most notable work is
Mhm.
Night Sky with Exit Wounds. Do you think that his career as a poet, like, lent itself to the book at all?
Yeah, I think I think it did lend itself to the book for sure. I
Mm.
think it also maybe took away a little bit from the novel,
Oh.
because it people are gonna love it, people are gonna hate it because it's so poetic, right?
Mhm,
Um, but if you didn't know that he was a poet and you were just an average Joe reader picking this book up for the first time, from the first page you can tell that this person knows story, this person knows how to form a story, this
mhm,
person knows how to form words in a way that can be short. It could be a short sentence, but like really packs a punch.
mhm,
Um, I think that's what lends itself to the story. As a person who loves poetic like prose, I think like
mhm.
Kava Ekvar is a really great example too, who was also a poet, and you can
Yep,
tell with Martyr.
mhm,
I think it really lends to the story and like him as a storyteller, which
yeah.
is, yeah, it's interesting because the Emperor of Gladness is not like this at all, which I think is really a testament to how he's changed as an author too.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I think so we've both read, for readers out there or listeners out there, sorry, also readers, but Logan and I have both read Unearthed We're Briefly Gorgeous twice at least, and then we've also read Ocean's newest book, The Emperor of Gladness. I think that I do see Emperor of Gladness vibes a little bit in this one because I when I came back into this book the second time, I was like, ah, the ocean I'm familiar with. I missed it here. It was nice.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. It's not completely the same. I think too that if you're out there and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't read a novel by a poet," like you're nervous about how accessible it's gonna be and how easy it is to read, know that it's beautiful, but it's not like gonna take you on a metaphorical journey. You're gonna know what is is
Mm.
going on. You don't have to worry about that. It's pretty, like, grounded in reality, but it's beautiful in the way that it does it.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think also if you haven't read this book before, just take your time with it too. You don't need to rush through it.
Mhm,
Like Mariah said, like he does walk you along the path from start to finish.
mhm.
Um, and it's super easy to consume. And I think that's what lends itself to how he's so good at the craft.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it takes a true master to, like, make things easy for people to digest, but, like, beautiful along the way. You don't want it, like, too juvenile, but he really strikes a really artistic balance with it.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think about the book being, like, semi or, like, straight up autobiographical?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think it's really sad that
Mhm,
it is autobiographical in a sense. Like the back says, it talks a lot about, masculinity and identity and immigration specifically is like such a big theme throughout this book. And I think that's
mhm.
super sad that this is the reality that a lot of immigrants face, a lot of queer people face. But I think it really lends itself to the story again. I think without those lived experiences, this book would not have been as successful as it was.
Yeah, I think so too, I'm with you. On that note about, like, what the book is and what it is in relation to Ocean's real life, we're gonna watch a clip.
How fun!
Yay! I don't know if you've seen this. You might have, but, Dula Peep has a book club as well, and Dula got to, interview Ocean. Have you watched this video before?
I haven't watched this one, no.
No? Oh
I
my god,
didn't
it's
know he
so
was on her podcast or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, 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 he was, and I'm like, "I stand so hard, good for Dula Peep." I can never call her Dua Lipa,
I'd
it's
love to
illegal.
know how you describe this book. Is it autobiographical fiction? Is it like a therapeutic love letter? You were already a very successful poet, when you wrote this. So, in some senses, is it also a long form poem?
Well, I think, the more I talk to you, the more I realize how much of my thinking is owed to music, and
Mm,
musicians constantly breaching genres, even in your own work, but even, going back to Michael Jackson, David Bowie, James Brown, MGK. I think it's much more fluid for musicians to breach new ground in genre, whereas in contemporary uh, literary circles, it's much harder. You have to almost declare yourself. Oh, now it's poetry. Now and a lot of that is the commerce. Where do we put this on a shelf in a bookstore, right? But I've always loved troubling these fixed ideas, finding where they can be broken. And so I ventured into this novel as a poet. I just had this belief that the tools that I learned in poetry can be used in the novel and maybe not make the novel better, but make them a different way to see the novel. Using the techniques of the poet, which is a lot of breaks, a lot of vignettes, right? Whereas the traditional novel writing workshop will tell you follow the protagonist through day to day, map out how they got here, the logistical bodily functions. And as a poet, I knew that if I stop the scene and pick up another scene, the reader will be there. Just like in
mhm,
a song, verse from verse, stanza to stanza, and then pattern making. This is not so much of a linear plot as it is pattern, very similar to the chorus or a refrain in
Mm.
a song or even orchestral music, having that refrain that returns the pieces, the backbone. So I orchestrated using this very, I don't know, I think to me, I wanted to be kind of like a troublemaker in all of these ideas and bring
Mm.
poetry to the novel rather than transform myself to fit the novel's taste. And I got a lot of pushback. When I was trying to sell it, a lot of editors told me, you have too many ideas in here. You have too
Mm.
many themes. You need to pick just the immigrant one because it's easier to sell. You got to take away the drug abuse. the opioid epidemic, take away the queer stuff, like narrow it down. You have too many endings at one point. And again, I just leaned on music and I said, in a way, this is an album.
I love what Ocean said about the reader will be there. It's like we were saying, like, he's accessible, and as a reader, you can trust that he's gonna take you on a journey and you're not gonna, like, fall off. Um, would love to hear what you thought about, uh, people saying that this wouldn't bring him commercial success because it's, like, too complex. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I hear what he's saying about it. I think when this book, I'm assuming he was trying to sell this book maybe it when it was published 2019, 2018 maybe. So he
Mhm.
probably was trying to sell this book in, 16, 17 in the
True.
US about these themes like immigration and drug addiction and masculinity and queer identity, which are super important themes. But again, like there is a systemic issue, especially in the States. And I think it would have been a super hard sell for a publisher to jump on it without taking the chance because people, readers, people who don't read too, would see these themes by an Asian author and be like, write it off completely because of their, you know, their biases, their
Mhm.
ignorance. Um, so I do see what he's saying. I think
Mhm.
even now in 2026, I think that same fear of being able to sell a novel like this would exist because we're kind of like, like life's a circle and you kind of just like it just kind of keeps repeating itself. We're back,
Mhm.
I feel like, to where that was back then. So I
Yeah.
do see his fear in that.
Yeah. No, me too. I think too, his ability to kind of break out of conventional plot structures and conventional like genre confines really didn't he's not the first person to do it, but in terms of like bringing that kind of book to the mainstream, I think he was definitely one of the pioneers. Since then, I feel like a lot of people are into more like unconventionally written books. Also, as a side note, in 2026, I think like unconventional plot structures is really gonna set people apart from, like, AI slop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
AI
Are
slop.
you are you
Oh
yeah.
my god, yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of books, that kind of defy, like, plot structures, like, coming into stores or being released, or
Yes and no. The one when you were just saying now, the one that came to mind was If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga. I haven't
Ooh.
read it, but the format of the book itself is very different. It
Mm.
like starts with like a Q&A and it's
Oh,
fictional.
yeah.
But it starts with like the first line being what the question is, and then an answer, whether it be short or long, about
Mm,
what that is. And then it jumps eventually into more narration and more like story building. But the question and answer is a part of the fictional part of the story, which is like just a weird format itself.
mhm,
Um, but I think it's probably rare still to see something like that being
mhm.
fragmented.
Yeah,
Um, People do like to experiment, but whether that be published, whether a publisher takes a chance on it, it's
yeah.
hard to say, right?
True. Yeah, great point. Yeah, there's probably a lot of like behind the scenes creativity in terms of like structure and style going on, but a lot of these books don't see the light of day. Good call.
Hmm.
So this book, since its publication, has been banned on and off like throughout the states for at different times and places and reasons. But what kind of impact do you think this book would have had? Like 17-year-old Logan, like what could this book have done for you
Hmm.
at that time in your life?
Yeah, I was thinking like what could have it done? I think as a rural kid too,
Mm-hmm.
I think this book would have helped shape maybe my queer identity a bit more. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that is a big theme throughout this book, and without like spoiling it or getting like lost in it, I think a theme is being lost in identity.
Mm-hmm.
We see with Little Dog, the narrator, and other characters when it comes to that, not
Mm-hmm.
being able to like express themselves without hurting or disappointing others, especially Little Dog. I feel like I relate to completely, even still as a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
But I think if I were to read this book as a rural farm kid at 17, 16, 18 even,
Mm-hmm.
I think my experiences maybe would have been a bit different. And I know I'm
Mhm.
not probably not alone with that. I think that's how universal experience with any queer identity. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. I think it would be totally different.
Yeah, and I think that's why obviously I don't need to tell you or the audience that I think it should stay in schools. But I think that's why it's important for, like, kids to read widely as early as possible because it's like, we're so
Mhm.
sheltered by the media, especially in the States, especially as of now. So just, kids, read all the things,
Yeah,
especially banned
yeah.
books.
Kids and
And
parents, like parents, just need to try a little bit harder sometimes with getting their kids to read books like this, especially
Mhm,
kids who struggle with
mhm.
certain themes and elements of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of themes, I wanted to talk about some of the themes of this book, and a big one for me is about like resilience. I feel like Little Dog, there's I won't get into the types of trauma, but there's a lot of trauma that crops up in his life from him or the people around him who he loves. But it's not to say that he doesn't like have down moments or suffer, but he just he treks forward and continues to kind of move on with his life and do right by himself. Um, what are some of the other themes? We kind of talked about them a little bit for you, but what are some of the standouts?
Um, yeah, I think resilience is a big one too. I think this book really talks a lot about like the immigration. Obviously, we know that, but like the American dream,
Yes.
that's a really big like overarching theme is the idea of the American dream, especially
Hmm.
as an immigrant coming to America. Um, Obviously, there's more themes of like queerness and trauma and
Hmm.
masculinity and identity, and there's like just like there is like like Ocean said, there's a lot of themes in this book, but I think they're all so extremely relevant and needed
Hmm.
to make this book what it is.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. I also, as an aside, I didn't put it in the brief because I just noticed it towards the end. But did you notice like similar ties between this book and Emperor of Gladness, like within like Little Dog and High's life?
Mhm.
Hmm.
There's a point in The Emperor of Gladness, like spoiler alert, if you haven't read it yet, it's been out for
Hmm.
a year. What are you waiting for? There's a point in The Emperor of Gladness where he mentions someone or something or his own life, like back in like rural, wherever they're from.
Yeah,
Not New
Hartford.
York, but like near New York,
Yeah,
Hartford, yeah. There's a pinpoint mention of like that in The Emperor of Gladness, and it's related to like this book, which I
yeah.
think is so interesting.
Yeah, me too. I noticed I'm sure there are a ton of, like, little Easter eggs like that because they're both kinda pulled from Ocean's life, but, when like, Little Dog and Trevor are riding bikes, and Little Dog mentions Trevor's UPS jacket, and that's the jacket High is wearing, a UPS jacket in the first scene of Emperor of Gladness. I was like, "The UPS jacket."
I didn't
Ocean's
even click
mind.
until just now.
Yeah.
Ocean's Mind. Wow. Your mind, even.
You know how I do, I be reading. Why do you think the book's success took off like it did? Is it the cover? Is it social media? What really propelled it into the stratosphere that it got pushed into?
I think because it's relatable,
Mhm.
because it does cover so many different themes,
Mhm.
immigration, queerness, trauma, etc. I think for anyone, maybe not
Mhm.
anyone, but like for most people, they are able to relate with
Yeah.
Little Dog in a sense of, being an immigrant, being queer, but not really knowing how to be queer or what that even means for him,
Mhm.
you know, identity, relationships, right? How they are good and bad. In this case, most of them aren't very good.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's probably why
Yeah.
it's was successful is because it is so relatable.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm with you. I think like that's a great point. He like Ocean describes the most mundane everyday things so beautifully in a way that makes you go, "Oh yeah, it is like that." Whether he's describing like the blur of scenery, like driving the train, riding in a train passing by, or like a leaf on a road, or the way he describes something, and you go, "Oh yeah, it for sure is exactly like that." It makes it immersive, and it's kind of like a weird
Hmm.
artistic way to kind of like save the cat in a sense, that writing technique to relate to little
Hmm.
dog. But yeah, very like artfully done. Save the cat writing technique on
Hmm.
hard mode.
I agree, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
I also wanted to talk about the future movie adaptation, and I'll just start out by saying, Logan, I'm scared. They're gonna wreck this. I'm scared.
I'm so scared. I know they're gonna really fuck it up.
Yeah.
I am so nervous. However, like I did Google it like before we jumped on the call to
Mhm,
see like where we're at with this
mhm,
movie, and there's like
mhm,
no headway. However,
mhm.
they do have I think director who like did Euphoria, which
Okay.
is like was decent,
Okay.
artistically decent. So like maybe there's a chance. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like book adaptations, like sometimes they suck.
They they do. The book is always better than the movie. So I think I would go into it with those kinds of expectations. But yeah, when I was doing research and I saw Ocean mention it in an interview, and he was like honored to kind of like sell the movie rights. I also was like, where are we at with that? And I saw that they opened casting last year, and I was like, oh no,
Mhm.
I'm scared. Uh,
I know. I'm so like curious. Like, there's so much in this story that like obviously can't all be in a movie.
mhm.
So they better not get rid of the good parts.
Yeah.
The parts that I need, they better not get rid of. There's very like no artistic like movement from the book. Just do the book.
Yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know.
Let me see the monarchs. Let me like put in the scene with the monkey brain, and then we'll be good. Speaking of scenes, though, I want to wrap this no spoiler
Yeah.
section by asking you your favorite passage. If it is a spoiler, though, we can bump it into the next section. Do you have a favorite passage?
I don't think it is a spoiler. I do have a favorite like part. It's pretty
Mhm.
early on, so
Mine
let me find
too.
it. It's on page 4.
Oh, okay,
Or
mine's not that
2?
early.
Okay, mine's like instant. Yeah, it's the first paragraph there. I'll read it out.
Yeah.
It says, I am writing because they told me to never start a sentence with because. But I wasn't trying to make a sentence. I was trying to break free because freedom, I am told, is nothing but the distance between the hunter and its prey. And
Hell
I
yeah.
think that really sets the expectations of what the readers will expect in this book, especially with the
Mhm.
last part, the hunter and its prey. I
Mhm.
think that's like an overarching theme that we'll experience, like a reader will experience with reading this book.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I love that. There's so many quotes you can kind of like pull out, and it's just like swathed over the rest of the book. Like that, the theme and the
Hmm.
wording and what he means in the imagery, it comes back time and time again. That's a good one. Mine is
Hmm.
also early. It's page 24, though. It's when little dog is on the bus and he's being bullied by some school children. Um, he
Oh,
says,
fuck those kids.
I know. He grabbed my shoulder and spun me to face him. Look at me when I'm talking to you. He was only 9, but had already mastered the dialect of damaged American fathers. The boys crowded around me, sensing entertainment. I could smell their fresh laundered clothes, the lavender and lilac in the softeners. And I love that part he says about the dialect of damaged American fathers. It really speaks to this like American moment, but also calling it a language, I think speaks to like the language barrier of the book and like communication with his
Hmm.
mom and this ode to Trevor. I'm like, oh my God, there are so many languages being spoken that you don't even realize or register that they are. And it's like
Hmm.
heartbreaking. I'm like, this 9-year-old kid already fucked up from
Yeah,
society.
from society, and like we know, like hate isn't born. No one's born to hate someone. Hate being hateful is learned, especially
Yeah.
in the home. So I think it really adds to that language too. It's like this kid is hearing this from his father or his mother or whoever's in his life, and
Hmm.
that's so sad, and that's like still so prevalent in day to day. Like I can think
Yeah.
even in my own life growing up, like that was just how people spoke, and that's just
Hmm.
like not okay now. You
No.
know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Small town Alberta represent. It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. And with that sunny note, we'll move into the third and last section of the podcast. We're going to get into On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous spoilers. So if you don't mind spoilers or if you've read the book, join us. And if you don't want to hear any more, we'll see you in the next episode. But cue music. Yay. um,
Music.
all right, getting into some spoilers here. I wanted to jump right in with something heavier. Rose, who the letter is to, Little Dog's mom, the abuse. She beats Little Dog and like but we still somehow root for Rose throughout the book. Like, at least I did. And but why is that, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like Rose on paper, we shouldn't like Rose,
No.
you know? I think Ocean does a really good job for making readers sit with like being uncomfortable with Rose
Mhm.
and like the abuse she gives Little Dog,
Mhm.
like both physically, mentally, emotionally. Like Rose is like not fit to be a mother.
No.
Like really, you know? But we also get insight from Lan, who is Rose's mother, Little Dog's grandmother,
Mhm.
in Rose's or for Rose's life, like the trauma that Rose faced,
Yeah.
like herself growing up, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like Rose's violence is because of the trauma that Rose has faced,
Mhm.
um, which doesn't like excuse the cruelty, but it
Yeah.
makes us understand why there's cruelty.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It kind of reminds me, like
Mhm.
thinking about it just now, of the like damaged American father language. Like, had Rose been brought up differently and not had to learn about war or hate or violence, like, would things have been different for like her and her relationship with her son? Um, but yeah, I didn't think that she would be a complete victim. I think also making her a complex character kind of warrants this letter from her son. They had such a complicated relationship,
Mhm.
and had she been the perfect mother, I don't think that this book would have been what it is.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think if she was what everyone wants a mother to be,
Mhm.
the story wouldn't have been what the story was,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, I think also it talks about like generational trauma and like how that really falls into generation after generation after generation.
Mhm.
Like we don't
Mhm.
know, we know a little bit of Lan's life before Little Dog and like
Mhm.
Rose, but like how has that like progressed throughout generations?
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting piece to pull out too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think she's like the most perfectly, spotless character morally, but I don't think she's an unlikable character either. Would you say she's like unlikable at all or no?
I would say she's unlikable because of the abuse that she gives Little Dog. Like we're not really we're rooting for Rose, but we're not like Team Rose, right?
Yeah.
I think she's likable because yeah, I think she's likable because we kind of like we can see a mom trying. You know,
Mhm.
we get points of like her life at the nail salon and
Mhm.
her trying to like just like make some money, right? We also get that
Mhm.
scene with the woman with the amputated leg and
Oh
like
yeah.
Rose being so kind to her. She took the 100 as she should. She took the
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
But there's like likable moments that like Rose is just trying. She's
Mhm.
trying to support Little Dog and Lan and her life, the American dream.
Mhm.
But she just has, so many skeletons in the closet that like really pulls away from that likability too.
Yeah, true. Yeah, skeletons in the closet is accurate. And yeah, I think at the end of the day she's just human, which brings it back to like how relatable this is in so many aspects. Yeah.
Hmm.
Dang. What do you think the significance of like Little Dog being unnamed is? Like, I know he's named, he's Little Dog, but like do you think, like, I think that not having his like human name ever revealed to us, it's an interesting like artistic choice. I'm not sure how I feel about it. If it pulls me in more, if it makes me feel bad for him more, if it makes me curious. I'm not sure. Do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
Little Dog being Little Dog?
I think yeah, like I agree with you. Like I don't really know how to feel about it. I do feel bad for him to not have like his human name, like
Mhm.
his birth name ever being said.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of tender moments between like Lan and him, Rose and him, Trevor and him that like would have warranted maybe like his birth name over Little
Mhm.
Dog.
Mhm.
Um, I there is a point in the book where like they mention why Little Dog is Little Dog, like, but I don't remember why. It's just like
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah.
It's like almost like dehumanizing almost to be
True.
constantly referred to as little dog.
Mhm.
But maybe it's more of a cultural thing that I just don't understand as a cis white person from
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. Fair. And it's and some things aren't for us to get, which I think is, things that white people should learn 101.
Yeah, literally. It's okay for us not to get everything. We're not harborers of all knowledge in the world, you
Yes.
know?
Unbeknownst to many people, but yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to talk also obviously about Trevor. There's so much to unpack with Trevor. Um, like they are both like Trevor and Little Dog are both queer. They're both obviously into each other, but they both obviously have had such different roads to discovering, accepting or not accepting their queerness. Like, what are your thoughts on like Trevor's traumas versus Little Dog's? They're so different.
Yeah, they're total opposite characters, but they
Mhm.
have similar trauma
Yeah.
in a sense, right? Like they are shaped by the same system. They're both in the
Mhm.
same town, same system. The whole American dream thing again comes up.
Mhm.
Um, but they tackle their traumas differently. While we see
Mhm.
Little Dog being like more resilient to his trauma and like putting on a good face, like trying to be the perfect boy,
Mhm.
Trevor is the opposite, right? He doesn't want to be perfect. He wants to be Trevor. He wants to
Yeah.
be a kid who just like fucks up and is against the system, even though the system's always pushing him down,
Mhm.
which I think is like super interesting on how they internalize each other's trauma
Mhm.
together and separate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's yeah, it's a great point. I think too, it was interesting to understand that they struggled with like different trajectories of their queerness, different moments in like their realization. Like I didn't have the impression that Little Dog struggled with self-acceptance in his queerness. Like he was just kind of like, Mom, I like boys," and he just always kind of like knew it, but he was never like, "Ah, do I?" Whereas Trevor was like, "Do you think you're gonna like men forever?" And he would say things like, "I'm not an F slur," and stuff like that, where he kind of like struggled more mentally to accept it in himself,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really interesting because Little Dog is more focused on like the aftermath of what that means and the ripple effect of his life, but Trevor was kind of stopped before he even got started with his queer journey because he couldn't self accept it. Just sad.
Yeah, it's super sad. I think that talks a little bit more about like Trevor with his fight with masculinity, right? He always
Yeah.
seemed that like you see it in one of the sex scenes, like when they were trying sex, right? That like
Mhm.
Trevor wanted to be the bottom
Right.
in this
Yeah.
sense, and like he just couldn't. Like he
Yeah.
couldn't do it because it is seen as too feminine, too gay.
Mhm.
Whereas for Little Dog, that was kind of the expectation was
Mhm.
Little Dog's not masculine in any sense,
Mhm.
and he's more feminine. As we
Mhm.
see, he's more emotional. He's more down to earth. Has all those more feminine qualities. And
Mhm.
Trevor just could never get over that barrier for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you surprised by like Trevor's like having struggled with his masculinity so much? Were you surprised by his moments of tenderness or no?
Yeah, I was. Like you see it in like the final sex scene, right?
Mhm.
Jumping ahead a little bit for a brief.
No
But you
worries.
see it in his like you see it in this final sex scene where they finally try to have real sex, like actual intercourse.
Yeah.
Um and life happens,
Mhm.
when not to talk about the birds and the bees, but like life happens.
Yeah.
Um and Trevor, instead of like shaming Little Dog, which you would expect because
Mhm.
again, masculinity and all of Trevor's own trauma,
Mhm.
instead of really lashing out and being violent or
Mhm.
making Little Dog feel bad, he makes him feel better, which I
Mhm.
think is like interesting. It's a really testament to their own relationship too, that there
Yeah.
was care there, that Trevor did care about Little Dog. Obviously, we know he did,
Mhm.
in other scenes in the book, but I think that's really paints the picture of who Trevor was like deep down. That he
Mhm.
wasn't just this broken kid, broken by the system, broken by his father. That
Right.
he did care about others as well.
Right, exactly. Which the deeper you read into the book, I think makes more sense. But initially, when it was like Trevor is set up to like, it's his trailer park with this dad who he fucking hates, and you think he's just gonna be like mad at the world and like violence or nothing. But when they're like first doing stuff and first like kind of like sexually experimenting, and Trevor would say things like, or maybe this was the end, but just moments of like, if this hurts we can stop, or if you're not into it we can stop, and just kind of like moments of
Hmm.
care and consent and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's so nice, because he in another book it totally could have gone into like a little life territory and been like an awful rape scene, but it was like
Hmm.
really tender and sweet, which I think, um he's just like a dynamic character that you really root for throughout the novel, right? Oh, oh, Trevor. I was going to ask you about Land's being a buffer between Little Dog and Rose. I'm still going to, but while we're on the Trevor train, I'd like to keep Trevor going. But if that's okay with you. So
Yeah, for sure.
the letter that this book is kind of around, a little dog writing to his mother, is so intimate when he gets into parts with Trevor. And like, is that something, it in those kind of moments you're like, oh, this isn't something you'd actually want your mother to read, right? Or like, how do you feel about it kind of shifting into an ode
Yeah,
to Trevor at times?
I think it's really interesting because I agree. Like, there's things in here that you would never want, like, your mother to know, right, or
Hmm.
read. Um, but I think I'm assuming this is written after Trevor's death,
Hmm.
so I think it's also a part of grieving, like the grieving
Yeah.
process for Little Dog to talk about Trevor in such a way that like would help him process Trevor's death because he really didn't get closure, right? um
Hmm.
like we only get like a couple moments of Trevor's death and like Little Dog being like running to the house but like not going in to see the father, um,
Hmm.
not really getting to be there for the funeral if there was a funeral and like those sort of
Hmm.
things we didn't really, so like Little Dog didn't get the closure he needed, so I think this is how he's using his mother with the letter format to get the closure he needs for Trevor's
Yeah.
death.
Yeah, yeah. Like this outlet to his mother was also like a vessel for like his broader grief, I think makes sense. I was surprised to learn
Hmm.
R.E. Trevor's death, that like when he's on the train from New York back to Hartford, he's like met with a flurry of texts when he turns on his phone again about Trevor. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that Trevor had such a community behind him, but that's like, as the reader, it's like so sweet to learn, weirdly. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because like they never talk about having other friends or like,
No.
other people in their corner. But
Hmm.
he gets like Little Dog gets like five different texts from five different people about like, hey, did you hear about Trev? Like Trev's gone or whatever. But then, like you
Hmm.
never, these two characters are always so isolated
Yeah.
in their own story that we never hear about these other people who maybe were supporters, maybe we're just friends, or
Mhm.
like who are these people
Yeah,
to them?
yeah, yeah. Had the book been 100 pages longer and explored other relationships with outside people, would you have fucked with that?
I would have loved to know, like because he talks about all these different people and like dying from
Mhm.
drugs, and like I know, I
True.
guess that really lends to the story
Mhm,
about like drug addiction and the opioid crisis, like he said in that interview. But I
mhm.
would have loved to like see who else was in their corner,
Yeah,
like
yeah, me too. Not that like, because I had trouble, like, feeling for them or sympathizing with them, but I think just, like, had I seen the broader community earlier on, it would have made me even more, like, heart-wrenchingly invested somehow.
yeah, I
But,
agree completely.
yeah, it's interesting to think about. Circling back to Lan, Little Dog's grandmother,
Yeah,
acting as kind of like a buffer between him and his mom. Like, how did you feel about like Little Dog and Lan's relationship dynamic?
I think they had a really nice relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, like Lan was the buffer between Little Dog and Rose, but
Mhm.
Rose was still Lan's daughter, right? So you can really tell that like
Mhm.
Lan obviously loves her daughter, would do
Mhm.
anything and excuse anything that Rose did,
Mhm.
but she was also a protector of Little Dog at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. But obviously, yeah, like Lan and Little Dog had such an interesting relationship. Lan was the one who told Little Dog about all the things from the past.
Mhm.
Um, so she's kind of like them. what's the word? She's like not the researcher, but like what's the opposite of a researcher? Like the
She
storyteller of the
Yeah,
past,
I was
essentially.
gonna say. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Do you ever hear the, like, stereotype or trope or whatever you wanna call it about, like, your strict parent, but, like, their parents who are strict with them are, like, sweet and gentle with you and kind of, like, softened in old age? I think that definitely happened here in
Hmm.
this dynamic, and I think it's, like, something little dog needed. Like, there's sweet little moments of, like, solidarity in picking flowers or, like, scratching each other's backs or pulling out the gray hairs are, like,
Hmm.
so tender and something little dog definitely needed in his life, especially in the scene where Lan was like, "Your mom is sick in the brain like me from the war. She's sick. She doesn't mean it, little dog. It's okay. You can come back." And I'm like, that's so awful that that's a conversation that has to happen, but, like, I'm so glad for little dog for having that in his life.
Hmm. Yeah, I think if like Lan didn't exist in this book, Little Dog would have been fucked. Like
Yeah.
honestly, you know,
Yeah, it would have been a little
without
life.
having his grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would, yeah, literally.
Um But speaking of relationships, like, how do you think the book would have changed if Little Dog had a prominent, like, father figure or male figure in his life when he was little? Other than Paul, which
You
who I
know, I
kind of
was wondering, other than
you know?
Paul,
Yeah.
yeah, Paul's an icon. You
Mhm.
know, all he's doing is just like planting plants, smoking some weed, like just living his little life in Virginia, I think.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I was wondering like how it would have changed the story.
Mhm.
But I don't think it would have been for the better
No, me either.
because there's a moment in the story where we get a glimpse of his father
Mhm.
who was abusive to Rose.
Mhm.
And I think if his father was still in the story, instead of abusive to Rose, he would have been abusive to Little Dog. And maybe
Mhm.
Rose's character would have changed a bit more dramatically.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think it would have changed the story for the better. I think it would have been similar to Trevor's story. Like his
Yeah.
father was awful, you
True.
know?
Yeah, I don't think that, like, Little Dog's softness and tenderness would have been able to grow in the way it did had he had somebody, like, overbearing on him about it. Um, but yeah, I agree, I'm with you. Fuck men
Yeah.
is the sentiment, I guess.
That's just what it is.
Um, I wanted to talk about the scene in the Dunkin' Donuts where Little Dog tells his mom that he's gay or he likes men, and in turn, Rose tells Little Dog that he had a brother that that like was stillborn, or did she abort it? I don't remember, but who passed away. Um,
Mhm.
and then he's like, Little Dog says, "We were exchanging truths, I realized, which is to say, we were cutting one another." And I wanted to ask, do you think it would have been possible to exchange these truths without being cutting?
I think not in this moment. Like I think in this moment it would have played out exactly how it would have been. I
Mhm,
think if Rose didn't say anything about his dead brother, it
mhm,
would have been different, obviously, and like maybe Rose would have told him later throughout the
mhm,
story. I
mhm,
don't really know why she told him. Like
mm,
I know she's trying to like compare apples to apples,
yeah,
but like I think maybe she was trying to relate
yeah,
also to like Little Dog in a sense of
okay.
like this thing about you is similar to this thing about me. They're both being pulled away.
Oh,
Does that make
interesting.
sense?
It does, and that's really nice of you because I thought that it was more like a hurt people thing where Rose was like, "Yeah, well,
Mm,
you hurt me, well, you have a dead brother. Get fucked." Like, that's how I kind of read it, and which is awful, and I don't think that there was any way to not be cutting in this scene. I think it's Rose pulling out a few skeletons in the closet because in her mind, Little Dog was trying to push one more in there about him being gay.
mm,
Um, but
mm.
maybe I'm jaded.
No, I think you're probably right. I think Rose was probably just seeing like, well, fuck you then, Little Dog. Like, here's something about that I can share that's going to
Mhm.
top you being gay. You have a
Yeah,
dead
yeah,
brother,
yeah. Yeah.
you know?
She's wild for
That's
that.
interesting, though. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, she
Yeah.
is wild for that.
Yeah. You generous angelic icon. So sweet of you. Um, Ocean explained we touched on this a little bit, this final sex scene, but Ocean had explained the final sex scene between Little Dog and Trevor as, representing an act of rescue, but, like, we talked about it kind of speaking to Trevor's tenderness, but, like, how else did you read that scene?
Yeah, I didn't really read it as like a rescue. Like I don't think
Mm,
he was rescuing Little Dog in maybe he was in a sense, but like we know that like how should I say it? Like instead of being like disgusted or lashing out,
mhm,
Trevor decided to be kind, which I
mhm,
think was incredibly out of character for this person in a
mhm.
sense. Like on paper, Trevor's not kind, but like we do see glimpses of this kindness throughout the whole story.
Yeah,
But I don't know if he was rescuing Little Dog. I just don't know. It's really hard. Like I don't really understand what he means by rescue, to be honest.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, fair. I like when I heard that, I was like, rescuing Little Dog from the depths of like his struggle with queerness, rescuing him out of like being tormented about
Mm,
like his confidence sexually, or like there are a few different ways I think you could
mm,
interpret it, but in my mind they kind of sound like a reach. But I do think that like Little Dog's takeaways about like it being okay, or when he's saying how people from Hartford say like you're good, as kind of like a that's like a colloquial thing they use. Um
mhm,
and Trevor kind of, like, instilling that in him at the end of the scene is, like when Little Dog got to take that with him throughout the rest of his life is the, like, "You're good." But I'm not sure
mhm.
as mu if that's a rescue as much as it is, like, a mantra that Little Dog could take with him.
Yeah, I don't really know like what he would mean by rescue other than yeah. Like obviously there's like your first time having sex is always going to be uncomfortable
Yeah,
and there's things that are going to happen especially as gay men, right? So I think
yeah.
this was their first foray into that and like,
Mhm.
you know, social media wasn't a thing at this point. So like this is
Yeah,
this they're just going on the fly,
yeah,
honestly. So like
true.
accidents happen. I think
Mhm.
maybe that's the rescuing because Little Dog
Yeah,
would have felt mortified, in
yeah,
that moment.
yeah. I think
And
if anything,
Trevor
it's
was
that.
rescuing him from that mortification. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm glad that he could kind of give that to Little Dog as like a passing final moment unintentionally.
Mhm.
Was there
Yeah.
anything about the book that surprised you, or what surprised you the most?
I don't know about surprise. My least favorite part of the book, you already mentioned it, was the monkey scene near the beginning. Like I the second time reading it did not feel like it still felt bad as
Yeah,
it
I
did the
forgot
first
about
time.
it.
I don't know,
Yeah.
like yeah, me too. And I was like, oh my God, like what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know how it lends itself to the story.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think it's just there for shock value.
Oh, interesting.
But it's just like so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just like not surprised by it, but like hated it. Hated every second of it.
Yeah, I hated that scene too. When they mentioned like bringing in the monkey, I was like, wait, one time years ago I read a scene about, and then I was like, oh no, it's this scene. It's this book. Like the doom I felt rereading
Yeah.
that scene. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
And I just like is so uncomfortable with it. And like
Mhm.
I know that like they said like because it's like eating the brains is gives medical properties and whatever, but I'm like,
Mhm.
no, don't
Yeah,
eat the
yeah.
brains while the monkey's alive.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that
what are
monkey
we
didn't
what are we
even.
doing here?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
literally, like leave the fucking monkey alone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think there was a ton that surprised me either. Maybe Trevor's tenderness and maybe like I was surprised how down and like blasé they were about Little Dog engaging in drug use as well. Like I know it was rampant in their community, but it was just kind of like also Little Dog does this too. And there wasn't like
Mhm.
a should I, shouldn't I? Like there was never like a grapple with the drug use. It was just kind of like
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because there is a scene in the book. Like, obviously, we knew Little Dog was using drugs and, like, probably all because of Trevor's influence. But
mhm.
there was a scene in the book later on where, like, Trevor is, like, warming up his heroin or
Yes,
something
and
on
the
a
spoon.
spoon, whatever
Mhm.
drug that is. And, like, offers it to Little Dog. Little Dog says no,
Mm-hmm.
which like was interesting because like that was his no go was heroin. Turns out,
Yeah.
which is just kind
Slay.
of interesting that he wouldn't just take it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah, true. But yeah, he was like, Trevor said I'm a baby or a pussy or something because like injectables was my line. But he
Mm,
was just kind of like he said that as a fact. Like Trevor thought I was a coward or a baby or a sissy for this, but he didn't say that he was like bothered by it.
mm.
He was like, yeah, so I didn't. So I'm like, I'm glad he wasn't
Yeah.
pressed or bothered by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Is there like anything else you want to touch on or anything else that you'd change about the plot if you could?
I think the only thing I wish this story had, and we touched a little bit more about it, but I think I wish we had more moments with Trevor that were
Yeah.
like actual real moments. Like I wish Trevor had more like narration.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like he says like a lot of like funny things or like offhanded comments or like just really like short sentences. I wish there was like an actual like sit down with Trevor and like he just kind
Yeah.
of like shared more of his life
Mhm.
almost.
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that.
Yeah. True. I respect it. I would love to see that
Yeah.
too. That and like yeah, the community piece we mentioned before. I think just more in general. Like if have we also had we also seen more into Rose's life, I would have fucked with that also. Like this book could have been 500 pages and I would have been down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
even like Lan's life too, like who was Lan
Yeah.
as a child
Yeah. And
and
Paul.
like and Paul, more Paul, you know?
I think that yeah, the summary is we're just greedy for Ocean Vuong's writing. That's all.
I think so. I think we're just greedy for Ocean Vuong. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. That's the deep dive. That's the episode. Thank you so much, Logan. I just wanted to also ask where can the people find and follow you and support the book archive?
They can find me everywhere on almost all socials, on thebookarchive.ca. That's also our website. Very convenient for everyone.
Mhm.
That's where you'll find me. Thanks for having me too, Mariah. This was a lot of fun.
Of course, my pleasure. We'll have to have you on another time. Um, because yeah, I feel like this episode is gonna bang and this was just so much fun. We also have a lot of similar reading tastes, so it's kind of like indulgent for me.
Mhm.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah, literally. I agree. Yeah.
But thanks everybody for tuning in and be sure to subscribe and like, drop us a comment, engage in all the ways that you would like to. I would appreciate it. We're still a little podcast. And we'll see you in the next one.